Nobody is talking about a red card. Nobody is arguing about a VAR call. The conversation happening inside the camps of the three most dangerous teams at this World Cup is about something far less visible and far more dangerous to their chances. Spain, Argentina, and Brazil, the sides most expected to be lifting that trophy in July, are reportedly dealing with a threat that no tactical setup can neutralize. And it is coming from the tournament itself. So what exactly is building beneath the surface? And why are the heavyweights starting to sound the alarm at precisely the wrong moment? Start with the scale of what FIFA has built here. 48 teams, spread across 3 nations, 16 host cities, and a tournament window that now runs 39 days from first whistle to final. That is a full week longer than any previous World Cup. For the sides that consistently advance deep into knockout rounds, that additional stretch translates directly into one more match nobody has ever had to win before. Previous finalists needed 7 victories to become world champions. This year, it takes 8. That extra game might sound minor on paper. On a player's body, entering the semi-finals, already carrying accumulated fatigue, it is anything but minor. Then there is the climate. Host cities, including Houston, Atlanta, Miami, and several locations across Mexico, are sitting in conditions that climate scientists reportedly flagged months before a single ball was kicked. Heat indices in some of those venues during midday hours have been described by researchers as reaching levels of genuine physiological stress for professional athletes. FIFA's pre-tournament response was a standardized rule: mandatory 3-minute hydration breaks inserted into every match, every half, regardless of whether the stadium is open air, roofed, or fully climate controlled. That blanket policy is now generating friction in exactly the places FIFA can least afford it. Spain head coach Luis de la Fuente made comments before his side's group stage draw with Cape Verde in Atlanta that were measured in tone but pointed in meaning. He acknowledged that hydration breaks make obvious sense in genuine heat, but questioned their necessity inside venues with functioning air conditioning. On the surface, that reads as a minor gripe about scheduling. Underneath it sits a deeper frustration that is reportedly shared across multiple dressing rooms. The sense that a standardized rule is being applied to situations that do not all require the same solution. Here is why the stakes on this specific conversation are so high. Spain entered this tournament ranked first in the world. Argentina carry the weight of defending champions, with Lionel Messi chasing what most observers agree will be his final opportunity at this stage of international football. Brazil, without a title since 2002, arrived under Carlo Ancelotti, carrying genuine belief that the moment had finally come. 3 squads, 3 histories, 3 enormous sets of expectations, and all 3 are reportedly feeling the pressure of this format in ways that were not part of the pre-tournament plan. Messi's physical management has been a subject of careful handling throughout the club season and has followed him into this tournament. Reports suggest staff around the Argentina camp have been monitoring muscle fatigue with the kind of attention that only intensifies when the stakes climb. Brazil's situation arguably carries even more visible scars. Estevan did not make it to the tournament at all, ruled out before the squad even assembled. Rodrigo's World Cup ended before it started. A torn ACL sustained during a club campaign that ran almost without pause into international preparation. These were not heat injuries, but the cause behind them connects directly to the same concerned player representatives have been raising for years. A professional football calendar that has expanded without building in meaningful recovery space, and a World Cup format that now adds an extra layer on top of a system already at its limit. If you're finding this breakdown useful, go ahead and subscribe now, because there is significantly more to unpack as this tournament moves into its most critical phase. FIFPro, the global body representing professional footballers, alongside a collection of national player associations, submitted formal concerns about workload ahead of this competition. The core of their argument is not complicated. Players at the elite level transition from a domestic season that finishes in late May or early June directly into a World Cup that kicks off within weeks. There is no genuine recovery window. Bones and tendons and soft tissue do not care about the prestige of the competition. They respond to accumulated load and insufficient rest. And the expanded 48-team format, 40 additional matches compared to the previous edition, creates more of that load for any nation expected to win consistently. What makes this more nuanced than a simple complaint about the weather is that heat and congestion do not distribute their damage evenly. A squad drawn from countries where summer heat is part of domestic football culture may adapt differently to the conditions than a European side that prepares in moderate climates for the majority of the season. Spain's playing group walked directly out of La Liga and the Champions League into North American humidity. For Argentina and Brazil, the heat itself may carry some familiarity from continental football, but the specific combination of North American travel distances, time zone shifts, and stadium-to-stadium temperature swings creates its own adaptation challenge. History offers a relevant reference point. The 1994 World Cup, the last time the United States hosted the tournament, is still discussed in football circles, partly because of the extreme heat in cities like Dallas, where temperatures reportedly climbed past 38 degrees during matches. FIFA drew lessons from that edition and has applied some of them here, including a conscious effort to push more kickoff times into evening slots where direct sun exposure is reduced. But evening temperatures in humid coastal cities like Miami do not drop to the levels that deliver genuine physiological relief, and no scheduling adjustment changes the fundamental arithmetic of 8 matches to win a trophy that previously required 7, which brings the hydration break debate back into focus. Netherlands captain Virgil van Dijk made comments after his side's draw with Japan that cut through the diplomatic language most players use when discussing tournament conditions. According to reports of his remarks, Van Dijk suggested the breaks sometimes feel structured more like commercial interruptions than genuine welfare measures, particularly in matches contested inside climate-controlled environments. Whether or not that characterization reflects FIFA's actual intent, the fact that it is coming from one of the most respected voices in the game, rather than from journalists or critics outside the fence, signals that this conversation has moved well past the level of background noise. Consider what the accumulated picture looks like from inside those dressing rooms. Players who have devoted years, sometimes a career, toward a single tournament arrive having prepared for every tactical scenario imaginable. What they could not fully prepare for is arriving in Miami, a high humidity, flying to a venue at altitude 48 hours later, playing a match with 3-minute breaks that interrupt rhythm at precisely the moments momentum is building, and knowing that if the results keep going the right way, the road to the final involves a match nobody's predecessor ever had to play. That is the reality. Spain, Argentina, and Brazil are navigating simultaneously, from different groups and different schedules, but facing an almost identical set of pressures. The fan dimension of this is also worth acknowledging. Supporters who have committed to traveling across 3 countries for this tournament are absorbing some version of the same environmental chaos as the players, without the medical infrastructure waiting at the hotel. The in-stadium experience shifts when a hydration break cuts through a moment of rising noise and collective tension. The crowd builds, the atmosphere reaches a tipping point, the game pauses, and something is lost that does not fully come back. For a tournament that FIFA has marketed as a celebration of football's global reach, the details of how matches actually feel on the ground matter. Quick reminder, if you want to follow the rest of this World Cup with the kind of context you are getting right now, subscribing takes 3 seconds and keeps all of this in your feed. So where does this head from here? In the best version of how the remaining weeks unfold, the teams with the deepest squads and the most tactically flexible coaching staffs absorb the format without visible damage. Rotation patterns become sharper. Hydration breaks get factored into in-game strategy rather than fought as interruptions. And the extra match ultimately becomes a footnote in the story of whoever lifts the trophy. FIFA has already demonstrated some willingness to adjust, moving multiple kickoff windows away from the peak heat hours in affected cities. Coaches across the tournament are reportedly building the break moments into their pressing triggers and defensive shape resets rather than treating them as dead time. The version of events that carries more risk is one where fatigue becomes the defining narrative of the tournament's second half. Spain, Argentina, and Brazil all carry rosters capable of reaching the final week. If any or all of them do, their players will have accumulated more competitive minutes across a single tournament than any world champion in history by the time the July 19th final arrives. A fractional drop in sharpness during a quarterfinal or semifinal, the kind that does not show up in tactical preparation, but surfaces in the body's slower reaction to a high-press situation, could prove to be the actual deciding factor in who wins this World Cup. That would be an uncomfortable legacy for a tournament designed to be the biggest in the sport's history. FIFA will point to its heat protocols, its adjusted scheduling, and its welfare frameworks as evidence that the expansion has been managed responsibly. FIFPro will continue making the argument that in-tournament adjustments do not address the structural problem at the root of all of this, which is a professional calendar that leaves elite players no genuine space to recover before the most demanding competition of their lives begins. Both positions are defensible. Both are also probably correct, and neither of them is going to be resolved before the final whistle of the final match. Here is what this all comes down to. The three nations carrying the heaviest weight of expectation into this World Cup are not losing sleep over their upcoming opponents. According to sources close to the situation, what is generating the real conversation in those camps is the structure around the football itself. The heat, the breaks, the extended schedule, the injuries that arrived before any of their players even touched down on American soil. Spain, Argentina, and Brazil are built to win tournaments like this. The question that the next several weeks will answer is whether this particular tournament was designed in a way that lets them